I put on the, tell me if that's good. Is that focused well enough?
No.
Are you on 81?
I'm sorry?
Page 81?
Yeah.
Okay. So the last thing we said, that the machlekes between Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim, according to Abaya, there's sacrifices that are put on the upper part of the altar. That would be a chatas. There's sacrifices that put on the lower part of the altar. Now we're discussing if the remnants of the blood, which also goes on the lower part of the altar, is considered the same place as the oil offering, which is also on the lower part of the altar. Now, technically, there's one slight difference. The oila is put on the wall, but the remnants of the blood is put on the base. So the way the altar was built was like, it started. There was a base, then there was it went up, and then on top of that there was. Let me use this. Then it went up again, like this. So the altar would be right on the top. So there was this would be the wall, but this is the base. So it's meant to go on the remnants of the blood goes here on the horizontal, and the oila goes on the vertical, on right. Okay, so Abaya says that soif chatas, which means the remnants of the blood, in an oila, everyone says that it works out well. There's no machlekes over there, and you can just put the blood on the wall. In other words, even the sages that said that you're not allowed to put mixed blood onto the wall, that's only if it's the original application of the blood. But at the end, everyone agrees that it would go on the wall, and the remnants of the blood would drip down onto the place where it belongs. So Rabbi Yosef responds back, no, that the base, the shirayim need the base. The shirayim means the remnants of the blood. That needs the base. It's not supposed to go on the wall and then drip down. We said that's the same machlekes between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, that we did, I believe, yesterday. And now we have a question. Masir Rav Huna bar Yehuda. We just started. I woke up late.
You too?
Yeah, I came here running.
Sunday schedule.
like wild.
Yeah.
Like my wife held the door open for me while I ran out. So Rav Huna bar Yehuda has a question. It says in the pasuk Kodesh Haim, they are holy. We said this is referring to the firstborn animals that are sacrifices. What does it mean they are holy? Shim nisarif b'dam kachim acherim, that if the blood of a bechar, of a firstborn animal, which is a sacrifice, the blood of it gets mixed in with other sacrifices, yikravu, you bring it. You still bring it. My love. Now, this is the blood of a bechar is put. We are on the altar, on the lower part of the altar. It must mean that seif oila ubechar. We're talking about the end of the oila. The oila is also put on the altar, but where's it put on the altar? It's put also on the bottom. So they're both on the bottom. But the pasuk is teaching me that even though it's mixed up, you still put it on. Now the Gemara doesn't think that it would be telling me that the original application of an oila with the original application of a bechar would be significant to tell me that you would put it on. Of course you put it on, it goes to the same place. Must be it's telling me that the remnants of the blood of the oila, which goes on the base, on the horizontal part of the base, that gets mixed in with the original application of a bechar, which goes on the vertical. And nevertheless, you still apply it. It's teaching me something interesting. Ushmamina, makam oila, umakam shirayim, makam oila, makam shirayim. It's coming to teach me that the place where you put the oila is the same place as where you put the end of the oila. The Gemara says, like, that's not what it's teaching me. It's talking about Tchilas Oila Bechar. It's talking about the original application of both of them. Gemara says, "My Kamash Malan, what are you trying to teach me?" It goes in exactly in the same place. Both of them go on the lower part of the altar, on the vertical wall. Why? So you have to tell me that you apply it. Everyone knows that you apply. If two bloods get mixed up and they belong in the same place, the pasuk is telling me that you still apply kodesh heim. They are holy. It's a plural. It's coming to teach me that you apply both bloods. Where it says yes. What's it teaching me? The ein oilin mevatlim says that sacrifices don't nullify each other, and therefore. Let's say one of the sacrifices was the majority. We don't say that it's not that it's considered that we just nullified the other sacrifice and it's considered like you didn't bring it. Because if you have two bloods, one of them is the majority of the blood. We don't say that you've nullified the blood to the extent that the minority was not brought on the altar. Gemara says that's what the pasuk is teaching me when it gives me the plural. Okay, now in the temple on Yom Kippur, there were two sacrifices that were, the same thing was done to each of them. One was there was a bull sacrifice, and one was the goat. Now these two sacrifices, you had to sprinkle 7 times, 7 below and 1 above with the finger. Inside the sanctuary, on the altar, inside, you had to do all of these different things. At one point, there's a machlekes if the blood get mixed.
Right.
And then if it's sprinkled, when they get mixed, if they get mixed before the sprinkling or after the sprinkling. Anyway, according to the opinion that they get mixed before the sprinkling, and then you have to sprinkle from both of them, so the bull offering, of course, has more blood than the goat, because the bull is a bigger animal, so it's more blood. So it says that you take from both the bull and from the goat. That tells me that the goat still exists. Even though there's majority of the bull, we still call it the blood from the bull and the goat. We still mention it. So you see that it doesn't get nullified. Now I need a pasuk by Bechar, Kodesh Haim, that they are holy, to tell me that the Oila isn't going to nullify, or one of them isn't going to nullify the other. I have another verse that tells me that sacrifices don't nullify each other. Gemara says...
Is that like when it's the mitzvahs don't nullify each other with the glow stamp?
That's interesting. It's similar to that. Usually it's used to tell me that the same species doesn't nullify each other because it's both blood. Usually Rabbi Yehuda, he holds that two species that are the same don't never get nullified. So the Gemara says Tanai, there's a machlekes Tanaim. Some learn it from here and some learn it from here. Masiv Rav asked the question, B'kriva b'nei Aaron es Adam, b'zarku es Adam. Okay. It says that the children of Aaron will bring the blood and they'll sprinkle the blood. Now, normally, the noun, the blood, should get replaced with the pronoun. If you already said it once in the verse, you don't have to keep saying the blood. It said the children of Aaron will bring the blood, and they will sprinkle it, it should have said. Here it says they'll bring the blood, and they will sprinkle the blood on the altar. The question is, why does it have to say the blood twice? He's quoting a brayse here. It's talking about the carbon oila. Ma Talmud Leimer dam dam. Why does it have to say blood twice? Sheyachal, because I could have thought differently. Ainli ala elu shenisarvu b'tmarasa. Could have only thought that only if the blood of the oila gets mixed up with the blood of another oila, with the blood of its tamura, sha'af mechayim tikarev. That even if it would have gotten mixed up when it was alive, you would have brought both. Because it's really this tamura is an exchanged animal. Officially, you're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to exchange one animal with another animal sacrifice, because the Torah says not to, even if the animal is better, and because you may end up doing it for worse. The Torah actually says whether it's good or whether it's bad, don't do it. Now, Rashi doesn't have this line that we're talking about, that we're discussing the exchanged animal. The main point of the brayso will go on. It says, Minayin l'rabbeis toida shlamim. How do you know that if it gets mixed up, that if the blood gets mixed up with the blood of a taida or the blood of a shlamim, so it says Marbani taida v'shlamim shaban beneder nedava kamaisa. I can bring along a taida, which is a peace offering, which is a what's it called? The taida, a Thanksgiving offering. Yeah, the shlamim is a peace offering. Shaban beneder nedava kamaisa. That also come as a donation, just like an oila. An oila is given as a donation. It's not brought as a obligation. If someone missed out doing a mitzvah, or he had thoughts of doing an affair, he brings an oila. Minayin l'rabis es asham. How do you know that if it gets mixed up, blood that gets mixed up with the asham, you also bring it? Mar ben es asham shatan matan dal kamaisei. Asham also needs to have the 4 applications. How do I know that if it gets mixed in with the blood of a Bechor Meiser in Pesach, that you also bring it bring the blood? So it says Talmud Leimer Dam Dam. Learn it from Dam, the extra pasuk Dam, the extra word in the pasuk Dam. What's our problem here? Let's see. My lab, is it not? Seif Oila Ubechor. The end of the Oila, which means the last thing that we learned was at the end of that if 2 bloods get mixed up, you bring it anyway. Which 2 sacrifices was the big chiddush here? We're talking about an oila that gets mixed in with a bechor meiser and pesach. Now both of them are applied to an oila and a bechor are applied to the lower part of the altar. We're trying to look for a chiddush here that you still apply the blood. We're saying that even though seif oila, which is the remnants of the blood of the oila, which is applied to the horizontal base of the altar, and the bechor, which is applied to the vertical wall, get mixed up, you apply it both to the vertical wall and let it drip down onto the horizontal base. The Gemara says, and so we'll see from here that the place of the oila is the same place as where you put the remnants, because this will work. The Gemara says, like, Tchila Seila Bechor. It's talking about the original application. If both bloods are put in the same place, so why do you have to bring a pasuk to tell me that if the bloods get mixed up, you put them there? You put them there anyway, that's the place where they belong. You don't need an extra word in the pasuk to tell that to me. My kamashmalan. So what's the pasuk teaching me? That the bloods of sacrifices don't nullify each other. That we already know from the 2 bloods, the bull and the goat on Yom Kippur. So Rav is asking now the big question. You tell me before that Kodesh Haim, which it says by Bechor, is teaching me that sacrifices, the bloods don't nullify one another. You said, you know it from the air, I know it from the 2 sacrifices on Yom Kippur that the bloods don't nullify one another. We said, okay, it's a machlaikas. Some learn it from here, some learn it from there. We said, some learn it from here, some learn it from there. It says twice in the pasuk Dam. It said, what do I learn from that? That the sacrifices don't nullify one each other. So he says, okay, how are we going to do this now? So it says Tanaihi. We give the same answer. Ikad denafkala mihacha, vikad denafkala mihacha. There are 3 ways of learning the same thing. Some learn it from here, some learn it from here. Vahani Tanai. These teachers that learn it, why don't they want to learn it from these? We have to discuss each teacher and discuss why he doesn't want to learn it like the other one. And we take 2 at a time, and we say why. So these Tanoim, why don't they want to learn from Lakach Midama Par Vidam Asar? Kasavri. We said that there's a machlokes when the bloods get mixed. Do they get mixed before the application? The 2 sacrifices on Yom Kippur. Do they get mixed before the blood is applied to the altar or after the blood is applied? If they get mixed after the blood is applied, then we can't learn from there that the blood doesn't nullify one another, because it says you take from the blood of the goat, and you take from the blood of the bull, you take from the blood of the bull, you take from the blood of the goat, you take from them separately. They weren't mixed yet. So according to that opinion, you can't learn from them. So that's very easy. Midam dam lo yalef, the other two don't want to learn from, because it says twice dam le mashmalahu. The extra noun, that it didn't use it a pronoun, they don't learn from that. Not everyone has to learn that that's an oddity in the pasuk. It's just an extra word that it's a little too precise. It doesn't need to do that. But they don't say that that's odd and it teaches me anything. Elami Kodesh my time Alfi. Why wouldn't they learn from Kodesh? Why do they have to learn from the other two options? Because Avri Kodesh may makrivim vein tumurasi kreva. That by a bechar, you only bring the bechar itself, but you don't bring an animal that's exchanged with it, with a bechar. You can't create a new firstborn. You can create the other sacrifices, but not for the firstborn. Okay, v'idach. So if Kodesh Haim teaches me that you can't create a new firstborn by exchanging it with another animal, so let's say the opinion that holds that Kodesh Haim teaches me that two bloods don't nullify one another. So how do they know that you don't bring an exchanged bechar as well? That you can't create a new bechar by exchanging it with a bechar? How do they know that? Because they're using the verse. You see, the logic is that the verse can only teach me one thing. So if it's teaching me that you can't bring an exchanged animal, then as a bechar, then it doesn't teach me that it gets that the bloods don't nullify one another. You can only pick what you want to learn from it. You can only use one. So v'idach, the one that learns from Kodesh, that tells me that they don't nullify one another, nafkale, how does he know that you can't exchange an animal for a bechar and then then you have to bring both of them? He learns it from imshar imseh la Hashemhu. Whether it's an ox or a sheep, it belongs to Hashem. But it says la Hashemhu, it is, and that it is an emphasis that hu karev ein tmura sikreva. It is brought, but the tmura is not brought. So according to him, he could learn it according to the one that learns that Kodesh Haim teaches me that the bloods don't nullify one another, so he could learn that you don't bring an exchanged animal from who Kodesh, that it is holy but not the other animals. Okay. Up to Tashma on 81b. Nasan the mile of nimlach. Let's say he put it, the two bloods get mixed up, and we're going back to discussing now Abaya that says the machlekes is only on the original application of the blood. Rabbi Eliezer says that you apply the blood, and the Rabbanan say that you can't apply the blood. But when is that? That's only at the original application, where one was meant to go on the upper part of the altar, one was meant to go on the lower part of the altar, or something like that. However, at the end of the application, where there's remnants of the blood, which is meant to be poured on the horizontal base, if that gets mixed in with blood that's meant to go on the vertical wall, that's not a problem, because you can put it all on the vertical wall and it will drain down into the horizontal base, and that will be counted. So we're trying to prove something from this brisa that we're bringing here. It says that if the person put the blood above, v'lei nimlach, and he didn't ask any questions, he wasn't supposed to because it was mixed up, but he didn't ask. Eilu ve'elu maidim, both the sages, Rabbi Lezer and the sages agree, she'achsav yitin lamata, that you go and you put the blood on the bottom. Ve'elu ve'elu eilu, and both these and these were good sacrifices. My love, is it not? The yarav chatas va'ila, talking about that a chatas and an ayla got mixed up. A chatas goes on the upper part of the altar and ayla goes on the bottom. Given the yav leila maila, once you've placed on the top, which is satisfying to the chatas, havelu shirayim, then the remaining blood is leftover blood. Uktani, and it was taught Both these and these agree that you put it below. Why? Because the remnants of the blood and the place of the oila is exactly the same. Even though one goes on the horizontal base and the other one goes on the vertical wall. We're going to say it's not a problem. You put them both on the vertical wall and it will drip down onto the horizontal base. It will be considered the same application. We learn from this, it's a proof to Abaya, that the place of the oila is the same place as the shirayim, as the remnants. Kiyas Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Yosef Amar Amri b'maravach ma'askin ken di'arav chatas chitzonim b'shirayim. They say from Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Yosef brings that they say in Eretz Yisrael. I think when it ever says they say in Eretz Yisrael, I think it's Rabbi Lazar ben Pedas. I forget who, or maybe it was Rabbi Yirmiyah. The Gemara tells me whenever we mention Amri b'marav, which sage it was either Rabbi Lazar or Rabbi Yirmiyah, that they have an answer for this. Actually, we're talking about the mixing of the blood here is not an oila which goes on the lower part of the altar with a chatas that goes on the upper part of the altar, and it was already applied, and we're just the remnants. We're actually talking about that it was a chatas gets mixed up with another chatas, but the other chatas was meant to be put into the sanctuary, and it was. And what do you do with the remnants of the blood that's actually brought into the sanctuary? It's called chatas pnimius, the special sacrifices, that the blood is put inside the sanctuary, and then the rest of it is burnt outside the temple. These unique sacrifices that were brought like this. But the what happens normally if the remnants of the blood spill out, so it says la yikiv, it doesn't affect the validity of the sacrifice. You did already the main application. When it says when the sacrifice that the blood is brought inside the sanctuary, then it is ma'akiv. It affects the validity of the sacrifice if the remnants are not poured on the base. They need to be poured on the base, those special sacrifices. So Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Yosef quotes from Israel. He says what's happening here is that the two sacrifices that get mixed up is a sacrifice that goes inside, which was already brought inside the sanctuary, the blood. And now you have the remnants. And now you have a regular chatas sacrifice, where one goes on the top. Chatas is meant to go on the top. And it gets mixed in with shirayim. And everyone agrees that you're going to apply it. Why? Because you already applied it to the upper part of the altar. Right? We're talking about a case where the person did not ask. He applied it to the upper part of the altar. So the chatas needs to be poured on the base because it's the remnants. And the sacrifice that was brought inside needs to be put on the base as well. So they both go to the same place. That's why everyone agrees. Amalei Abaya. If they're both chatas and they get mixed up and they need to be poured on the base, so everyone agrees you pour it on the base, why do you have to say you're talking about that an outer chatas got mixed in with shirayim of an inner chatas? Just say name a mark in the Arab b'shirayim. Just say they got mixed, two chatas got mixed up. Two regular chatas got mixed up, and it was applied. Both of them were applied already, and you pour them both together on the base. What are you telling me? You pour the two animals the two sacrifices. The blood was already applied. You take and they get mixed up, so you pour the rest on the base. That's where it belongs. So why do you have to tell me? No, it's a sacrifice that was brought inside that needs to be poured on the base, and this is a sacrifice that goes outside and is poured on. They're both poured on the base. It doesn't matter. That's where it says, Dilma Hakamashman, maybe it's teaching me something special here. Even according to the opinion that says that the sacrifices that are brought in the inner in the sanctuary if you don't apply the remnants to the base, it affects the validity of the sacrifice. Chasru ein ma'akvin. But if they're missing some blood, why would they be missing blood? Because when they got mixed up, the Kohen did not ask, and he applied the blood to the upper part of the altar. It doesn't go on the upper part of the altar, because it goes inside the sanctuary. It's supposed to be put on the base. It gets mixed up with a sacrifice that does go on the upper part of the altar. The Kohen doesn't ask, and he puts it on the upper part of the altar. Then he pours the rest on the base. What he poured on the base is the remnants of the sacrifice that went inside the sanctuary, with the remnants of the sacrifice that were put on the upper part of the altar. Now, what happened here is that he has all the remnants of the sacrifice from the upper part of the altar, but he doesn't have all the remnants from the one that went inside the sanctuary, because some of that went on the upper part of the altar, so it's lacking, because it was applied to a place where it doesn't belong. So there is an opinion that says that if you don't put the remnants on the base, you affect the validity, but that's only if you don't put anything on the base. But that doesn't mean that if it's lacking some of the blood because you applied it to the top, you affect the validity of the sacrifice. So that's what we're learning from here. We're learning that even if you hold that if you don't apply the blood to the remnants of the blood to the base of the altar, but that affects the validity. But that doesn't. But that nevertheless, just because it's lacking some of the blood, it's still kosher. Chasru ein ma'akvin. Okay, if it's lacking, it doesn't affect. Yitzi, you with us?
I am.
Okay, Amalei Rava Tisvala Ravina. This is a later Rava. Rava says, this Rava says to Ravina, Hukimna hahi. We've already established that brisa. We discussed this before already. We had spent the whole day on discussing these brises yesterday. Berubel Yainim, that we said the majority of the blood was meant to go on the top. It was a chatas was mixed with an oila. Most of the blood was from the chatas, and it was a 60-40 mixture. And you took the kayav lamayla shir tachtein vayid. You took from the lower one. You took from the lower one its entire measurement, which would be 40% plus more. You made 50%, and that was applied to the top. We were trying to explain, according to that opinion, that it doesn't mix equally, and all of this, that it should work. You've already explained this price so differently, and now you're coming in and you're telling me that it's a chatas, both chatas, and it's the remnants, and you just changed the whole story. We said, Ravina's response back, he said, we had a reason for doing that. We were trying to explain a brisa, or a mishnah, according to an opinion that it didn't fit with. So we had to come up with these stories to explain how it would work. That was according to Rav Ashi, who was explaining Rabbi Eliezer, who holds ein bila, that two liquid mixtures doesn't mix uniformly. But maskana b'kaisus pligi. Then Rava came along and told us that that's not the case. He said that it wasn't even mixed. It wasn't even a liquid mixture. Yesterday we finished the Gemara concluding that they were mixed in cups. It wasn't a liquid mixture. So according to them that it was mixed in cups, you don't have to tell me that there was a 60-40 mixture and you applied all of. You can still say that we're talking about that it was a confusion of separate cups. We didn't know which one was which, and they were both applied to the upper part of the altar. Which sacrifice could it be? It could even be a sacrifice that was meant to go in the inner sanctuary, and was mixed with the sacrifice that goes in the outer sanctuary. He's coming to tell me that even though both bloods were applied to the upper part of the altar, which one of them should not have been, but nevertheless they're still valid because they were poured on the base, and the fact that one of them was poured on the upper part of the altar, and it's lacking now blood, remnants that belongs on the base, it's still kosher. Okay, let's do the Mishnah. Anitanim b'fneim, bloods that were meant to go inside the sanctuary. Inside the sanctuary. Yes, they're meant to go inside the sanctuary. They get mixed with bloods of a sacrifice that are put on the outer sanctuary, and on the outer altar rather. The inner altar and the outer altar. The inner altar is in the sanctuary. The outer altar is just in the open courtyard. What do you do with them? Yishafchu la'ama. You pour them down the drain. The Gemara is going to ask, why doesn't Rabbi Eliezer argue with that? Rabbi Eliezer was always the one that said, just consider it like water and just put it wherever it belongs, right? That was Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. We'll see. Nasan b'chutz. Let's say you applied it outside. You took the blood, without asking, let's say, and you applied it to the outer altar, both bloods. B'chasav nasan b'fnim. Then you went inside the sanctuary and you applied it inside. It's kosher. It's kosher. Both sacrifices are kosher. Bifnim, v'chaser v'nasim b'chutz. Let's say you went inside the sanctuary with both bloods and you applied them inside on the inner altar. So now it's a machlekes. Rabbi Akiva paisel v'chacham machshirim. Rabbi Akiva says that you've made the outer sacrifice invalid. So the sages said no, it's still valid. Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva holds, he says, Kol dam shenichnasu l'chaper behechel psulim. Any sacrifice that doesn't belong in the sanctuary, but you brought it into the sanctuary, you invalidate it. The sages say, chatas bilvad. It's only by a chatas. It says by a chatas that you're not allowed to bring it into the sanctuary. But if other sacrifices that are brought into the sanctuary, it's not a problem. So therefore, if two bloods get mixed up, one of them does not belong in the sanctuary. One of them belongs in the sanctuary. So if they were applied first out of the sanctuary and then in the sanctuary, so then it's for sure kosher. But if you went first in the sanctuary, possibly you're invalidating the one that doesn't belong there, right? You're invalidating the one that's meant to stay outside the sanctuary because you just brought it in the sanctuary. You weren't supposed to do that. Rabbi Akiva says that's a problem only that's a problem for all sacrifices. The sages say that's only a problem for a chatas. It's machlekes. Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Eliezer says he agrees with the sages, but he adds one more sacrifice in there that would become invalid if the blood is brought into the sanctuary. Shenemar kechatas ka'asham, because he says that the rule of a chatas is like an asham quoting a verse. The Gemara asks the question we mentioned. Niflig nami Rabbi Eliezer baha. How come Rabbi Eliezer doesn't say in this Mishnah, just apply the blood and consider it like water? The Gemara says, Heichi le'avid, what do you want him to do? Nesib b'chutz. If you wanted to put the blood outside, v'had nesib b'fnim, and then bring the blood inside. Just like there's a mitzvah to do first the blood that goes on the upper part of the altar, and then to do the blood on the lower part of the altar. There's precedence. There's rules here of precedence that the upper part comes before the lower part. There's also a rule that blood that goes inside comes before blood that goes on the outer altar. So when we're saying Rabbi Eliezer should have said, tell the kohen just to apply the blood and we'll consider it like water. We ask, what should he do first? Outside altar and then the inside?